Hey there. Glad you could take a minute and spend some time on the episode here. Today I'm still in this process of thinking through, okay, how do we get better as knowledge workers? And I did a post on what is knowledge work. And so now in general, I want to think about how we get better. So in this episode, I'll use examples from professional sports. I've watched a couple of things recently that have this on my mind. And so, many of us play sports, many of us used to play sports. We've had various levels of coaching and different interventions to try and help us be better at whatever our sport is. Maybe if you are currently a golfer, you spend money with a golf coach in order to try to get better. Many people just practice a lot, okay, in order to get better. That was certainly when I played golf. That was certainly my MO, was to just hit balls and hit balls and hit balls. And that's certainly an approach that, practice is necessary. More recently, as I've taken up playing the electric bass, I've spent more time trying to think through the process of learning a skill like that, a physical skill, as compared to learning that's in the more formal educational system, and trying to think through, okay, now as an adult, how do I learn? And the base is a physical skill. And so it's a little bit of a different kind of learning, kind of back to my days when I played sports in high school. And so people that want to study performance are often kind of attracted to top level athletes, professional or otherwise. And how do they put themselves in a position that they're at the very top of the game for at least some period of time, right? And I think people that study this are attracted because you can definitely tell who's the best within just a handful of people in the world. So if you're a medium distance runner, say you run 5,000 meters or whatever it is, there's 5-6 people in the world who are generally recognized as the best with that. I watch golf and pay very close attention to golfers. And so, I kind of know at any one time, who's the best, right? And so those of us who are interested in performance tend to study that area because it's visible to see who the best is. And since their specialty has this physical component to it, we can actually observe kind of what they're doing. So that's interesting. And so I thought in this episode, I thought I'd take some of those ideas and see if we could get some practical application out into our world of knowledge work. And so we're constantly trying to get better at what we do. And so part of that is, as to the degree that we're knowledge workers, and I would argue that all of us are to at least some degree, and many of us are to a great degree, that we figure out kind of from that perspective, how do knowledge workers get better, right? And so we'll unpack a little bit of that. We'll look at some professional sports methodologies, and we'll try to think through, okay, what can I glean from that area of expertise so that I can get better at what I do. And we want you to get better at what you do because that's greater productivity. And there's a chain out to more money, more success, more challenging problems, and a happier life for those of us who are knowledge workers. So as we're thinking about this, it occurred to me, I was watching the US Open tennis, and all the big time tennis players have a group of people who are their coaches. And in some cases, you have a swing coach, and that's somebody that technically understands the mechanics of the swing. But you also have a fitness coach, and you have a strength coach, and you have a nutrition coach. And, the better they are, the more people they can pay to help them get better at what they do. But as I was thinking about it, getting better at what they do really falls into at least two categories. So I was also struck, I was watching a golf tournament that was a charity event, and I was amazed at how many of the star athletes in basketball, some baseball players, a golfer, I'm sorry, a football player or two, how good they were just kind of naturally, seemingly, at this golf thing. And I was thinking about, okay, well, there's this underlying notion of somebody who is athletic, right? And they can, at some level, they can apply their athleticism to a different kind of athletic problem, right? So they can decide to become, basketball players or football players or soccer players. And that's them applying their athleticism in a different subfield of the athletic endeavor. But they all have in common this athletic thing that they do. And I was trying to think through how we might define that. And I think I've hit on a definition that may be useful. But first, let's think about, so they have technical skill within their specific sport. Okay. And they really work a lot on this, right? Tennis players work on their forehand, they work on their backhand, they work on their serve, right? Golfers work on their golf swing, right? And this is the technical performance that distinguishes one athlete from another. And I was thinking that was interesting because there's a parallel in knowledge work. So some knowledge workers have a specialty in, say, medicine. Some have a specialty in law. Some have a specialty in entrepreneurship, right? And so our particular knowledge specialty is a piece of how we get better. And we increase our knowledge of that specialty, and that's one of the things that helps us get better. But if we use the athletic metaphor, right? Professional athletes spend a bunch of time on their general athleticism and improving that athleticism, right? They do strength and coaching, they do speed coaching, they do nutrition so that their energy levels are appropriate at the appropriate times. All kinds of things that are not actually about their specialty. And it struck me that, if you're the strength and conditioning coach for a professional athlete in tennis, then a lot of that knowledge probably overlaps to be a strength and conditioning coach for another athlete in another sport, right? So tennis, quick burst speed, change of direction, lots of cardio fitness. And these things also apply to basketball, for example. And so, thinking through, is that specialty applied in all these different areas? And that made me think about the notion that, as knowledge workers, we can get better and often do focus on getting better by acquiring more knowledge in our particular specialty. So lawyers read about legal stuff and doctors read about medical stuff, and they're improving their knowledge base. But it also got me to think about, okay, well, athletics generally is this notion of being able to consistently put your body, consistently put a ball or a puck kind of where it needs to be. Okay. And so then the parallel out to knowledge work is us being able to put our attention where it needs to be, right? And be able to do that quickly and fluidly, be able to sustain that for longer and longer periods of time. And then we can approach these different situations more effectively. Maybe there's new situations that we can approach. Maybe there's more complex situations that we can approach that thus produce bigger solutions. And so thinking about, okay, how do we get to a point where we can apply our attention well and for good periods of time? So in your work at improving your own knowledge work, okay, I want you to think about, how can I get into the gym, right? How can I do, often the phrase, well, one of the phrases I've heard is to put in the hard yards so that you can last for a 5-set tennis match, or so that you can play 18 holes of golf at your peak for 4 consecutive days. And so many athletic pursuits have this kind of training. And that's very close parallel to what we're doing with attention compass. There's some knowledge, technical knowledge, there are some habits that we need to build, but a lot of it is about how do we position ourselves properly such that we can solve these knowledge work problems. How do we put our attention where it needs to be? How do we have the information that we need to have at the time? Even things like how do we schedule our time and the context for our attention, right? And an example of context is the last thing you want to do is trying to apply your attention when you're tired, right? When you're kind of mentally tired, right? That's much like an athlete at the end of a long game. Usually the error is not that they've forgotten how to swing their tennis racket or their golf club, but they're struggling with their conditioning to put themselves in the right position to do that. And so just thought I'd bring up this parallel with sports and to think about, okay, well, what are we doing here at Attention Compass? And I would say, well, just like athletes work on their athleticism, knowledge workers need to be able to work on their attentionism and their ability to bring their full focus and their full knowledge set and all the information that they need together at the right time in the right place to solve the right problem, such that then we can produce the results we want to produce in the world for our clients, make the world a better place, and certainly make our own world, financial and otherwise, a better place for us as well. So I wanted to get that into your hands and think about that over maybe the next week is, I know I have this knowledge set, but am I in a position where I can apply it where it needs to be applied? Am I getting to, use the tennis analogy, am I getting to the ball so I can hit it, right? And kind of using that analogy to think through what we're trying to do here. Of course, if you want to work on this stuff, we're available at dobusywrite.com. And would love to see you out there. Some of this information is being populated in that venue as well as on YouTube, and potentially there's an audio podcast on its way at some point in the future. So we're trying to get this information into your hand, this knowledge into your hands, so that you can get better at what you do, more productive, more successful, and that you can get out there and do busy right. So thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon.